Joe, what do you think the strength of this unit will be?
I think depth. We've got a lot of guys who've played football, and then we feel like we've got a lot of guys who've kind of emerged as training camp's gone on. So I think it's probably the deepest defense that we've had. Now, time will tell what the results are and where it is in terms of just stacking up in terms of performance. But I like where the group's at, and I like the depth that we have.
Who's had a great camp?
Jordan Newman's had a great camp. Terrell Smith's had a great camp. Thomas Rush has had a great camp, but I think the one guy that has probably stood out the most is Terrell Smith, because those other guys played a lot of football for us and have been all conference and those types of things, nominees and things like that. But Terrell's just really played at a high level.
When you say guys have emerged, are there some guys that maybe worked their way into your rotation that you perhaps weren't counting on going into camp?
Not necessarily so much that, but like Ja Joyner is like taking a huge step. He's flashed from a pass rush standpoint, and right now he's doing a really good job being physical against the run. Danny Strigow, we needed him to emerge and be a guy, kind of moving up the pecking order, so to speak, in terms of us being a recruit and developmental program, his being able to slide up, and he's really done that. At linebacker, Don Willis has been a guy that's flashed a lot, and he's been more consistent in terms of his performance. So, Darius Green, and so these aren't necessarily true surprises. We needed this to happen, and we kind of talked to these guys about it, but it's really good to see them kind of step into the forefront.
If that light's going to stay on for Terrell Smith from now until November, what has to happen?
Confidence. He just needs to be able to compete and respond. When you play corner in the Big Ten, there's going to be times you get beat. You're going to give up a completion. You're going to give up a ball over your head. It's not that play. It's the next play. It's the play after that. And he's done a great job with that. And, Coach talks about that within the program. We talk about that within defense. We've shown a bunch of clips where, like, a guy makes a mistake or a guy gets beat. How does he come back and play after that? Because that'll be what ultimately determines our success defensively and as a team. So, and for tea time, that's what he's got to be able to do.
Justin Wally kind of burst onto the scene last year. What do you think is the next step for him as he enters the season?
Yeah, I think, obviously last year was a progression, right? He goes from, being a guy that's rotating in midway through the year. He wins the starting job and played well overall. So that was him going out, doing his job. He made some splash plays. Now the next step is to be a guy that when they put on the film, they say, we don't really want to throw at this guy because he's a guy that's doing a great job of denying the ball to the receivers, doing a great job in run support. So those are kind of the things that we want to be able to see.
What's the key in preparing for an unknown team like New Mexico State?
Week one is always there's an unknown to it, right? Because it's a new year. Teams can change schemes. Well, this one, you've got a new head coach, you've got a new coordinator, you've got a bunch of transfers, junior college from other schools. They very easily, could have moved players, positions. So there's a lot of it that goes into it. We've been looking at film from Pittsburgh State, where the OC Beck is from, Rutgers, where Kill was OC last, and then both of them kind of were together at TCU. So we've looked at all that film. The great thing for us is they play in week 0. So we're going to get an opportunity tomorrow, to watch the game. And then that'll kind of be able for us to narrow down some things. And it'll allow us to really dive in a little bit more into the personnel, because now we're actually going to see the people that we're going to play against. So while it's a little bit more challenging because of all the unknown, it actually, because of the week 0 for us, we are going to get that film. So
PJ was talking about the versatility of some of the guys you have, Dixon, as a play caller and devising a scheme. How much does that open up possibilities for you with guys that can do different things?
Yeah, when I was a young coach, I didn't always appreciate play to the guy's strengths. It was kind of like, hey, this is what we do. And then you get older and you get a little wiser because you make mistakes, and you say, hey, maybe we should do the things the guys are good at. Not so much what you want to do, but what the guys are good at, and maybe stay away from putting them in position doing things that maybe they're not so good at. So with having guys with multiple skill sets, we'll look to put guys in those types of situations. Sometimes maybe it's a matchup. Like, hey, we got a guy who's a big-bodied nickel like Flip. If we got some big receivers, maybe we get him matched up on him. And just little things like that. Hey, who are the good blitzers? Who are the good cover guys? Those are the things we're always looking to identify. And they may not always be just on the grand scale that's just, hey, we put this new scheme. It might just be a matchup, like getting a body on a body where we feel like we can win that matchup. So.
Explosive plays last year. Obviously, the Ohio State game, you had some personnel issues in that one, but
Yeah.
after that, you were able to really eliminate them for most of the season.
We were number one in the country in least amount of explosive plays given up last year. There's a stat for you. Yeah.
On that point,
Yes.
given that stat, what was important? What was key to kind of being able to eliminate those?
The thing that always goes into it, being on the same page, communicating, those are the first and foremost. And that goes from the coaching staff. Like the coaching staff's got to be on the same page. How are we playing this? What's the expectation? What's the call? Because sometimes there's multiple ways to play. So then from the coaching staff down to the players, okay, hey, this is what it's got to be. Again, them communicating, them being on the same page. It goes into scheme a little bit. If your cover zero blitz team 80% of the time, I guarantee you'll have more tackles for losses and also more sacks, but I also know you'll give up way more explosive plays. And then the number one indicator of points allowed, which our number one stat on defense is don't give up points. The number one indicator of points allowed is explosive plays. And so that's why that's so important to us. And then we preach it all the time to the players. And then I think it's complementary football of everyone playing together. You get a guy going rogue out there sometimes, that's what leads to an explosive play. So it's just a combination of communication and guys working together, us valuing it, us believing in it. And I know I started with that stat, but in the one thing is that was last year. No one gives a heck about last year, right? What's this year's defense going to be able to do? Because I know the 2020 defense gave up a lot of explosive plays. The 2019 didn't. So what is this defense going to be? So, you can draw from the past and say, hey, when we do it this way, we've had success. That's what the past is for in that example. Like, hey, when we've done it and done it right, this is what it's looked like. So let's do it again. And nothing can be taken for granted. And so every day, the detail, the communication, all those things got to be valued at a high level so that we can be a defense that can hang our hat on not giving up explosive plays.
You see Will linebacker right now.
I see it where we have multiple guys that are doing a good job. We've had, Braylon, Oliver doing a really good job, been the most consistent that he's been playing at the highest level that he's played at. Cody Lindenberg, has done a really good job, just came off the field a little bit earlier, had a great practice. And Don Willis has been over there and getting reps there too. So I feel really good about where it's at. I see all those guys having an opportunity to play at that position, and injuries, all the things that go in, personnel matchups. We've got to put ourselves in position to put the best guys out there. But I like those three.
Defensive
One or two
holding.
more for Coach?
Defensive holding now includes an automatic first down. How does that change things, and what emphasis have you put on it with the players?
Not anything new. I mean, it was always a penalty, so it was always something that we talked about. It was always something that we've shown on film. It really hasn't changed what we're emphasizing. The only thing was, we had an officials meeting and Coach Fleck, we had the officials in, and so, hey, listen, if this happens, this is a first down. And so that even puts a little bit more of those guys just understanding what's going to happen if it occurs. But as far as the way we've coached it, it really hasn't changed how we've coached it.
What do you like out of Jordan Howden in camp?
I think he's been really physical in the run game. Last year, I believe he was one of our better tacklers in terms of just getting guys on the ground and in space. And, and we need him to continue that. But then also, it's been exciting to see him as he's gotten bigger and stronger, add a little bit more physical element to it. We've seen him doing a really good job at times blitzing, doing a really good job at making some plays on the ball. So, we've really seen his growth and his progression in terms of his game. So.
With the first game, Coach, do you always have some concerns about the level or proficiency of the tackling going into a first game?
Yeah, it's always a concern because, you haven't done it as much. And quite frankly, you do it less in 2022 than you did in 1992. But I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. I think the teams are healthier, the players are healthier, you avoid injuries. You can do all the things that lead up to a tackle. We can do a lot with drills and bags and the footwork to get in position. We've had live periods, but when you go and it's live and it's a game, there's always that beginning of the season, hey, where are we at? I like where we're at, but we got to go out and pass the test. And once we see where we're at, and then we'll adapt what we need to in practice and get better from week to week.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Coach.
Thank you.